Hello everyone, my name is Rajen Kandel. I'm the CEO and the founder of the British College. Today, on the occasion of our 10th anniversary, I'm here with two very special colleagues, Earl of Sandwich, who is on our advisory board, and our executive principal, Mary Bishop. John, we're very grateful to have you on our board, and I would love to hear from you, your story about how the British College came to you, your knowledge, and how did you decide to join our board and your experience about the British College.
Oh, thank you, Rajan. And before I say anything else, congratulations on the 10 years of the college. I was lucky to become involved when I first went to Nepal. And this is now going back a few years. I was introduced by Mr Chiran Thapa, but in fact it was because I was at school with Crown Prince Birendra. He was a little younger than me, but we were very good friends. And Chiran was one of his staff, so it was quite simple. He said, "Why don't you become involved with the British College?" I said, "What's that?" I didn't know what it was. But I've learned a huge amount, and I can say more about my time in Nepal, but I've been on many parliamentary visits, and before that I worked with charities who asked me to go there. So I've been very lucky to learn about it.
Excellent. Maybe if I could bring Mary into the conversation. Mary, again, you've been involved with the British College since its inception.
Yes.
So please talk about your experience with the British College.
Well, first of all, congratulations on 10 years, and I can't believe it's 10 years. There's so much has happened during that time, but it also goes so quickly. So I was first involved with the British College back in 2012, when you were only the second college in Nepal to decide to offer British university degrees. So it was quite groundbreaking at that time to be taking the degrees into Nepal and working with the Ministry of Education to understand how to do that. And at that time, I was leader of international at the University of West of England, and developing all sorts of different international partnerships, particularly in Malaysia and Sri Lanka. And for me, it was the first time that I'd actually travelled to Nepal. Before I went, somebody said to me, "It's the melting pot of the world. It's a fascinating place," and I can say I genuinely found that. And then throughout that 10 years, I've been involved in different ways. When I was Director of Learning at the ACCA, then I accredited your very successful professional college, of course. We'll talk a bit about that later, some of the successes in the last 10 years. And since a couple of years, how I joined your board and became executive principal at the British College. So all of the engagement I've had with the British College has been really interesting and very rich, I would say.
Rajan, can I add something, which is that education is so important. And I've been in Nepal for other reasons, like development, water, the role of women, all the kinds of things which go with rural development, great poverty in some places. Education is the way out. And I was so impressed, as Mary said, to hear about this link with the UK, because I'd simply never heard of it before, that you could take a first-class degree and remain in Kathmandu. Of course, a lot of people want to go to the UK, but that's up to them, up to whether the parents can afford it. But to be able to do it there is absolutely marvellous.
I would also like to talk a little bit about the British College initial days, how we have worked with University of West of England, Mary Bishop, around that time. That we wanted to launch a program that was suitable for Nepal, to build the capacity of Nepalese students, as the large number of students from Nepal traveling abroad during that time for their higher education. So Mary, would you be able to talk about some capacity building and the selection of program that we came up together? At that time, you were working at the University of West of England and we from the British College. So if you could mention something around your experience around that time, please.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And I think it's central to the British College mission, isn't it? It's all about creating capacity in Nepal, and that might include, during that time of study, students going elsewhere, going to the UK for a period of study, but coming back to Nepal, so that we're creating capacity that is really needed in the country. And when we looked at it, there seemed to be a real need for business skills, enterprise skills, at both the undergraduate and the postgraduate level. And of course, the other side of things, which you worked with another university partner, was on the digital side. So bringing together business and digital makes a real difference for those students. And it's accessible because students don't have to think about the cost of travelling to the UK, living in the UK. They can do some trips if they want to, or they can do all of their study in Nepal. So for me, that sort of ability to give the student the choice of getting the very best that a British degree can offer, but also being able to do it in a way that is affordable, accessible to them, is hugely important. I think that's key to capacity building, and I think it's key to developing social mobility and offering opportunity.
Thank you. Also, John, I would like to talk to you about your role in House of Lords. I know you've been Nepal's friend for a very long time, and you've spoken about various aid that Nepal gets from UK government in the Parliament. So what was your experience about now you are linked with an educational establishment in Nepal, which is trying to transform the lives of young Nepalese, so that hopefully these Nepalese would one day will go back to their country, or they will contribute something in their country, so that Nepal probably doesn't need to rely on so much aid. So if you could just highlight around your experience around that.
There are so many ideas behind that, Rajan. I would love to talk at length. But let me first thank you for including me in the advisory board, because I know we have a range of skills there, but I've been able to bring some experience from the British Parliament and from working with charities before that. And I've had the chance to go on a parliamentary delegation and bring up questions about Nepal in the Parliament. It's not easy. We've got India right there. We're doing a big trade agreement with India at the moment, but I think Nepal is always just behind. And I think education has really come up. I also am so pleased Mary mentioned this visa, which enables young people to get a higher education after they've got the initial degree. And I think that's terribly important to be able to do that. The Home Office is not easy. It's quite restrictive. In fact, many of us are arguing with the Home Office about such things as migration and entry into the UK. It's happening all the time. So we have to keep up that struggle to support what you say quite rightly is the end product, which is that people can go back to their country with these skills and experience and make a real difference there.
Mary, and I would like to sort of talk about your perspective around your involvement with many other higher education regulators, universities in the UK. Now, the British College, actually, you were one of the key person to start the partnership with the university. Now you are actually in the other side of the table, so you are actually working for the British College. So what would you say your sort of plan, or how would you like to see the British College sort of move forward in the future?
Yeah, it's really interesting to be on the other side of the table, and it's quite helpful as well, because I can anticipate obviously the needs of the university partners. And the context is really important. As John says, you know, the visa situation has been difficult for students until recently, and we've got a fabulous post-study work visa. And that post-study work visa is really transformational for students, so that if they've done their undergraduate degree, maybe partly in Nepal, and then they come and do their final year at one of our partner sites, for example, University of West of England in Bristol, and then decide that they would like to get some work experience in the UK, they can apply for a post-study work visa for up to 2 years.
And you were behind the campaign to get that visa.
Well, I certainly did campaign with I was a higher education commissioner for around 4 years, and we did a big cross-party report in Parliament, and there was a lot of support for it, but I think there just wasn't the will to get that change in at that time. So it's taken a couple more years, and a lot of lobbying from UUK International, for example, and lots of universities themselves. But I think there's so many beneficiaries, both the UK, but the students at the end of the day, and particularly in a country where we're trying to build up capacity, when we're trying to increase the skill level to be able to come to other countries and work and then go back to the home country, I think is really positive. And for those students at the British College as well, we've got very high employability rates. So, for example, with the business students, then it's well over 90%. With some of the digital students, it's over 97%.
Really?
So it's really impressive. It shows, I think, that we're offering the sort of education, the sort of skills that the employers want.
Absolutely.
And I think in terms of expansion, to pick up on your point about expansion, I think the other thing that students want is that sense of being able to be mobile if they want to. So since I was first involved in the British College, of course, which was in Nepal, you've got many more colleges now in Nepal and campuses. You've just recently, and I know you'll talk about this in a moment, opened your first campus in Dubai, and then there's a campus in London. And that really opens up opportunities for students because they can move between the campuses but still stay within the Kandel education group. And of course, they not only have the choice of campuses, but also our partner campuses as well. So there is a huge amount of choice for students to flex around, to decide whether they want to study for a whole year abroad, whether they want to do a short trip, whether they'd like to work in the UK afterwards, for example, whether they'd like to go and spend some time in Dubai. There's quite a lot of different options, and I think that helps build the employability skills because it builds a real intercultural understanding and an international understanding in terms of the employment market, the skills needed, etc.
Very good record.
John, again, I would like to talk about the friendship between UK and Nepal. And you have been a true friend of Nepal for decades. So if you could highlight our friendship between Nepal and UK and how this friendship should develop in future.
Well, my friendship with Nepal goes back to 1962 because I delivered one of the Land Rovers which were coming from the UK at that time to Kathmandu, where they were very valuable. And so with the money we got from the Land Rover, we were able to travel a bit. And so I visited Pokhara and some of the countryside as well as Kathmandu. And I know there are many, many things still to be done. It's just extraordinary how the relationship with the UK has gone on over 200 years. The Gurkhas are obviously one of the symbolic connections. You have a very large aid program, which I hope we will maintain, but of course we've been cutting our aid program. So that's another reason we have to lobby in Parliament. But trade with Nepal, I hope, will expand a little. I think we could still do much more in that department. I know that hydro is one, and I expect pharmaceuticals is going to be another big one. And so I just wish you every success, because you're going to have all these qualified young people to carry out the mission.
Mary, I would like to touch on the area. You worked with so many different universities, institutions. Why do you think the British College is so unique? How does it set apart with the other institutions that you from your experience in Nepal and other countries?
I think it's because of its original mission, which is to develop capacity, to support the students, to support the employment market. And I think it's the way that the British College goes about that. So obviously we do everything that is necessary, as every college does, to deliver a British degree. But we do more than that. So during the very difficult pandemic period, we've undertaken a full review of all of our quality, and we've gone through an enhancement programme and gained, as the first college to do so in Nepal, the British Accreditation Council Award for Independent Higher Education. And that was a huge piece of work, and a very timely time to do it, having matured through the first sort of 8 years of life as a college delivering UK higher education. So I think it's that real focus on the students. During that period, it's been very difficult, both for colleagues but also for students. And we've listened to students and supported them financially. But we've done more than that. We set up a wellbeing centre that directly addresses supporting their mental health. And that came from conversation with the students. And I think that's the other thing that I would highlight, is that British College has always partnered with students, always listened to students, and they've been very much part of the running of the college. So when there are initiatives, there's that student voice in there throughout the whole of it. And it's other things like, new Internet of Things lab. I mean, how fantastic for students to have that, not only if they're doing digital studies, but also for co-curricular studies, for social time, to be able to experiment and build up their own business ideas, and be enterprising with that. And we've also got the cyber forensics lab at the moment that's being developed. So these things, for me, alongside the partnering through course representation, student association, and then high quality delivery and outcome, but also connection to industry, all of those are different elements that give a real 360, that gives a multitude of USPs for the British College. So a student coming there knows that they will be part of the TBC family, the British College family, and they're part of the wider Kandel education group. So they might want to travel around, or they might want to digitally connect with fellow students. And then they've got the studies they need, and they've got a connection to the employability market and the extras that employers are expecting to see, like having experimented on the Internet of Things.
It occurs to me that the SMEs are very important, the small medium enterprises, because you can have a direct connection with the college to help one or two people set up, which may expand, but it doesn't matter. You can have SMEs which will carry on at that level, and they're very valuable.
Yes, I think that's a really good point. And Rajen, you've just restarted your business, haven't you? Your entrepreneur's enterprise business.
Correct, yes. Just to add on that point, John, we have a very distinguished industry advisory board at the British College, and they are all very successful business people, investors in the country. That has added lots of value to the British College. And in fact, our executive MBA students had a very private lunch with our industry advisory board members. So these MBA students actually got the direct knowledge from these board member we have, and they had that interaction that made a very a good impact on the students' experience. I also wanted to sort of bring you up to date with the group. We are expanding into different sectors in education. We are building a complete ecosystem in the education. Recently, we've expanded, acquired schools outside Kathmandu, namely Rupandehi, Chitwan and Pokhara. These schools are being launched. Two of them already running, and the third one, Pokhara, has been launched as a British grammar school. And you are also aware that the Village Institute in Dubai was also launched. The project was running for some time because of COVID. It was delayed. The official program was delayed, so you just launched last week as well. And also we're doing lots of work in our campus in London, so that we are launching lots of programs in health science in London. So we are, as you can see, linking the education in primary, secondary and vocational as well, vocational area, as well as the higher education degree, bachelor's, master's degree in Nepal, making it a complete ecosystem. So from your experience, and I was just wondering, John, if you have any sort of suggestion how the group should really make a huge contribution in Nepal's economy, how we could work even better, or what are the other things that you think the group should be focusing to make a real positive impact in Nepal?
I was going to tell you that I've just joined, quite recently joined the committee which deals with international agreements in the House of Law. And at the moment we're dealing with Australia and New Zealand and farming. The next one is going to be India, and there's going to be a lot of argument about visas in that discussion. But I hope we're going to see a Nepal agreement, free trade agreement, before long. I mean, that, as I said before, there is so much tradition behind this that I think people will gradually recognize the value of Nepal is coming through. You know, it's always had to play second fiddle to India, which we understand, but it's got now a completely new profile because partly the sort of work you've been doing. And I hope that education will continue to be at the forefront of all that.
Mary, do you want to add anything, any other view you have?
Yeah, I think one thing that that I would highlight is that I think the young generation have a real hunger for understanding international and for having global experiences, and that doesn't always have to be about travel. You know, that can be through digital connection. And I think having that flexibility, as I said earlier, about having an offer that students can connect to Dubai, can connect to London and other places in the UK, and they can do so for the length of time they want. They can do so digitally, or they can do so in person. I think it's all about choice and flexibility, and I think the way you're building the group with key centres, with commonality but also difference. So we've got business and digital everywhere, but we've got a really interesting theme of pharmacy in London, and then in Nepal, beginnings of hospitality as well, and also some much broader programs in digital that aren't seen elsewhere, such as digital forensics and cybersecurity, and around Internet of Things. All of those things, I think they're important because I think they're very future-facing, and it's about future-proofing for the young people in Nepal and giving the opportunities in Nepal as well as internationally.
And you've got some star pupils, haven't you? I understand.
We've had some amazing successes, and throughout that whole decade there have been winners of various prizes. But just this year, we've already had 2 global standard prize winners. So Ruby is one of our final year BBA students, and she's won an international prize called the Zonta International Prize. And that's all about women in business scholarship, and it's worth $10,000 and very hard fought for. So we're very proud of her, and she's very enterprising. And if you do any searches for Ruby Shah and the British College, you'll come up with all sorts of different things that Ruby's involved in. And then alongside that, we've also had what's called an ACCA topper. Now, as I've said already, I was Director of Learning at ACCA, and whilst I was there, I always really celebrated what we called our toppers. So there's about 500,000 ACCA students worldwide, and each exam sitting, there's somewhere between 100,000 and 250,000 students. And each of those sittings, there are 14 students who are top in the world. And Ria, one of our students, she's got top of the world for taxation. Really? So a fantastic success, really, really impressive. And I'm sure we'll take her many places.
That's brilliant, absolutely wonderful.
John, would you have any suggestion, any message for our young students or any young fellow Nepalese? Any suggestion you have? Any final words for them?
Well, I think the final word is probably the answer, because I'm getting on a bit, but I'm hoping that more young people are going to come up in the organisation of the college. But my message for young people is that I have got grandchildren now. I can see them coming up to teenage level, and I can experience, although it's a long time ago, a whole 2-generational change, and it's extraordinary how many new opportunities there are now. Grasp them and do what you can to bring yourself and your fellow Nepalis to success. And the economy is quite simple if you use what you've been given and use it effectively. I think there should be no problem. You have always got difficulties on the way, but I know that the college is one of your best supporters, and that should work.
Mary, I think I earlier probably forgot to touch on that. If you could quickly highlight the recent achievement by the British College about the British Accreditation Council accreditation. If you could highlight what it is and how did we get it?
Yes, and I mentioned that we decided during lockdown that we wanted to review all of our quality and make it even better. We'd already had very high quality ratings from our UK universities, but we're all about enhancement, and the better the standards and quality of the whole college, the better it is for the students and also for staff as well. So it's a tough process to go through. So the Higher Education Independent Award requires due diligence across all of the workings of the college, including governance and financial, and then a really detailed review of the delivery approaches, so how well we teach and assess. And then alongside that, there's a very big focus on student support. So what are we doing for our students? How are we supporting them whilst they're studying, supporting them to get into employment afterwards, or if they are already in employment, how can we support them to increase the level of that employment? So it was a big piece of work that involved all of the staff and all of the students as well. So the British Accreditation Council took about 6 months to do a paper-based review, and then they did a lot of interview-based review where they spoke to our students, they spoke to our supporters, etc. And we got a fabulous outcome from that, where we didn't have any recommendations for improvement, but we had some notations for good practice. So we were absolutely thrilled, particularly in a difficult time. I think that gave the college a real lift, and the students were really proud to be involved, and it gave them another dimension to be involved in as well.
Again, I would like to add, recently the British College is building its own new campus as well. We have acquired a good a piece of land on a very kind of strategic location in Kathmandu, very conveniently located. Yeah, there's lots of new things happening. There's lots of expansion happening within the group, and I wanted to sort of check with you if you could highlight the direction of the British College in next sort of 3 to 5 years of direction. Which direction you're heading at the British College to?
So I think we've talked about the physical expansion, the bigger footprint, and we've talked about the mobility that brings. And I think we want to really work hard to make sure that the students benefit from that. And it's been tough times recently for travel. And we're just starting. We've got our first trip to Dubai, I think, in the next couple of weeks, and students are very excited to be going there. And then we'll progress to reinstating the trips that we planned to the UK. We're bringing in a lot more programs, and they are very tailored to employability. So we're listening to employers and the Industry Advisory Board to understand, in terms of digital, what exactly do employers want. So we don't just want to do IT programs, we want to do the provision that will make the students able to gain the employment they want, and will help build the capacity in the pool. So I think in many ways, the next 3 to 5 years will be a consolidation of recent expansion, of building out from that. You've mentioned the new campus. I mean, hugely exciting. That would be wonderful to move to the new campus. But we've already expanded out once last year into a new campus, and we're looking to expand to some remoter regions as well. And then, of course, there's what's happening in Dubai, and as you mentioned, we're looking to develop in London as well. So I think all of the foundations are there, and the next 3 to 5 years will be building up from those foundations and building out from them as well, keeping on listening to the market to ensure everybody's fully prepared for what's needed.
I think this is where I'm allowed to congratulate you both on so much achievement, remembering that we've come through an epidemic the last 2 years, and yet it was all going on, and the students were working hard, and they were learning things which they might not have learned otherwise.
Yes.
So that's a tremendous achievement.
Thank you, John, for your support and your guidance. And I'm very grateful for your hospitality here today. When can we welcome you again in Nepal? What is your plan? When can we have you in Nepal?
I must come and see the new campus, so I'm very keen to come.